Yes, hello there. How are you guys? I'm fine, thank you. What is your favourite thing about drag? Because my favourite thing about drag is doing it. And today I'm going to talk about my experiences starting doing drag. I am excited to start my new podcast because I haven't done a podcast in 2020, since 2020 that is, and I did it about autism and growing up with it and my experiences and stuff, and this time it is a different podcast and it has different meanings, but I still have the same autism, so I probably will go off in tangents. So bear with me in this roller coaster ride while I talk to you about my experiences starting doing drag and what I think the best way to do it completely blind is, like starting up and becoming a little baby queen, being born into the world, you know. So I started officially doing drag in September time of last year. And I have loved it ever since. I've met really good friends because of it. I've had chances that I wouldn't have before performing on stage and expressing myself, expressing gender identity, expressing lots of different things. Honestly, I think it's a good idea. I think generally, even if you're not part of the LGBT community, even if you're not wanting to perform in it or anything, I'd say give it a go. Just express yourself. It's just coloured dust on your face at this point, you know. But I started as I said, I started in September, but I discovered it by watching, I'm going to say, obviously going to be Drag Race, isn't it? Being born in the 2000s and then seeing it on, I think, Netflix, probably around 2013, season 2, and I was like, okay, this is cool. Wow, interesting. I didn't know people could do this. I had no idea. What the hell? This can't be right. I was like, this isn't, what is this? And I've really liked it. And I used to tuck my myself into my duvet, watch it in bed, and strut down the runway as if I was RuPaul herself. And yeah, it's been amazing. When parents are out, I do lip syncs in the kitchen to certain songs, variations like that. And I think I'm so proud of myself and starting this and having the courage to do so. And I'm so glad that I can now tell people about drag stuff and be part of the community, because I have felt quite welcomed generally, and I was scared about that because I tend to get a bit of imposter syndrome when it comes to things, and I still pretty much have a little bit of it, but I generally think people have really taken to me, and I get compliments about things, and I feel like I'm doing well, and that's not something I always feel. I don't always feel like I'm very good at things, even if I might be, and some people can see me as being so, I don't know. But I feel like I found one of my callings, and I'm happy with it, you know, it's great. I obviously have a long way to go, and so will you guys if you're starting out. Maybe not, maybe you'll be a prodigy of some kind, who knows. But generally, I think that drag is something that anyone can really do, and there's not really a need for being a certain way or being in a certain mold, because obviously drag is expression, and drag, it can be anything you want it to be. It doesn't have to be human in a way, you know. There's plenty of drag creatures out there, and really talented. I mean, Dragula, Dragula's so cool. I'll tell you what, Dragula I find more interesting than Drag Race. And that's not just coming from someone who likes spookiness and wants to, like, sort of target themselves as a spooky queen and do horror stuff. I just think it's more creative and free. And they allow drag kings as well, which is a thing that needs to be more represented, of course, and is an aspect of drag, and it needs to be more represented on the TV. And Dragula does that, and it's amazing. And there was a D&D episode, so if you like D&D like I do, gotta go for it, you know, gotta watch that episode. There's 2, actually, now I think about it. Yeah, there's 2. And pretty perfect. So that's cool. And what I would say on my next train of thought here, while I segue myself into what I actually want to talk about, I want to mention that I am an idiot who can't remember what I'm going to say and anything like that. But oh god, it's really hard. Like putting yourself in front of even a microphone, just sort of by yourself in a room, is hard. But you know what is also hard sometimes? Performing in front of people and gaining the confidence to do that. I feel like the best way to do that is just to go at it. Just have fun with it. Just be super aware that everyone else is there to have a good time. And it doesn't really matter what happens. Like, you might cock up. I know I have a few times. But generally, it's not a big deal. It's all fun. It's all fun and games. And at the end of the day, everyone likes you regardless, I think. I think the spectacle of a drag performer is so fascinating that someone who's willing to go to a drag show is always just going to love you by looking at you in a way. And don't think you really have to be this, like, most polished queen on the top or king or artist on top of level just to be recognized. You don't. You just have to be kind and caring and well known, not in the community, but well known as a good person. It's good to work with. You don't have to be super famous. And at the end of the day, it is technically about fame, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It's like one of those things, at least I feel, is that if you wanted to have it as a hobby or a career, it doesn't necessarily have to make you be like famous, like Drag Race level or Dragula level famous. And the reason being that is that at the end of the day, the art can mostly be for yourself. And I think that's important to think about, because it is you doing it. You're doing the makeup, you're doing the outfits. Someone might design the outfits for you, but you're wearing them. You're the mannequin wearing them. And you generally, you are, at the end of the day, showing off your talent, which you've probably developed yourself, and you've had the fun of doing that. You've had the fun of creating a musical track, or singing, or adding things together, or just sort of adding things into a playlist. Maybe you're taking photos of like makeup and stuff and the different concepts you've made. At the end of the day, that's for yourself. Like, other people may see it, other people may have opinions of it, which is great. It's great when people love things. It's great when people give you like positive feedback on things and like constructive criticism. But at the end of the day, you are your own sort of biggest fan. At the end, and it's really hard to be that. It's really, really hard to be your own biggest fan. But I feel that if you are your own biggest fan, you are aware of the talent and the value that you have, then no one can stop you. And that's the trick. That's the trick to life, and that's what I believe, anyway. So, when it comes to me, like, a story of me starting out drag stuff, I started in university, which is funny enough when I ended my last podcast. So I started in university, I was at a party where the AMABs were supposed to wear dresses. I don't think any AFAB people wore, like, more masculine-based clothing. I think it was just based on, like, your dress wearing. So, someone put makeup on me, someone put a dress which was way too small for me on, and I felt really good. I felt really confident. And I was so blessed. Like, I loved it. I loved it so much. It was amazing. And then I didn't touch it for, like, so long. And then after, like, a bad spat of, like, mental health issues, I got to the third year of uni. My computer's come off. Why my computer turned off? It's still recording. Okay, good. I started my third year of uni, and I was like, okay, screw it, I'm gonna do it. And I went to Boots, I went to charity shops, got everything I needed, and then I put myself together. I wasn't too good at makeup right then. I had trouble sticking it onto myself, so it didn't really show up very well. And yeah, you couldn't really see well. I didn't shave that well at the time I wanted to be. Obviously, you can be a bearded artist, and that's fine. But at the time, I wanted to be shaven, and it didn't show very well. So you can still see quite strong stuff. I didn't wear foundation either, so I didn't help myself in any way in that aspect. But I did all that kind of stuff. I did it at student union nights, went out, just wore dresses and stuff, and not only to build confidence, as I've been saying, but to also give myself a little bit of recognition, I suppose. To sort of, I suppose I also wanted just to feel like I was a part of the community as I was sort of like gaining more of interest into it and discovering new things. I've forgotten if I've mentioned this, but to feel part of the community, I would say when you've started drag, you are part of the community. You don't need to feel like you are the most well-known, most recognized person ever. Just, you are now part of the community. And this is an experience I've experienced. I didn't realize this. I thought people would look at me, take one look at me and be like, nope, screw you. And then I followed people on like Instagram and stuff, different drag artists and various things. And I got followed back, and people seemed to like what I was doing, and I felt really recognized. And I was very small back then. I was only have like maybe 100 following, which is totally fine, totally valid, honestly. And then I just got up and up and up and up, and at that point, yeah, I felt very I felt validated. I'd say I felt very validated, but as I've said before, what other people think, their likes, the amount of likes you get on posts, the amount of followers you have does not matter. As long as you, yourself, like yourself, then that's all that matters. But as I started getting better at makeup, I practiced and practiced and practiced. I found myself that I liked what I was seeing more. I didn't yet have an identity, and that's important in your drag. The one thing I'd say is important, doesn't matter what it is, as long as it is an identity. So I wanted to be something horror-based. I wanted to be like a creature, because as a non-binary person, I sort of thought, I don't necessarily always feel very feminine. I don't necessarily always feel very masculine. So the best way to do that is sort of be more horror-based. And in that way, and with like the body dysmorphia I had of not looking necessarily completely 100% feminine, and based on like how I felt, at least how I looked, being more horror-based negates my fears of wanting to be like more seen as like a cis woman, or seen as like a drag queen who's, as you say, they used to say fishy, but it's not. I don't think it's really a good term anymore to use. But I wanted an identity, so I chose the horror identity. I would practice horror looks. Did a Halloween horror look where I eyeshadowed. I didn't use paint. I eyeshadowed my entire face, and then did like makeup. It was like this red demon. I did like makeup around it. Did draw myself a mouth. I'm surprised with like the amount. It didn't take me that long. I'm surprised that I could do that with the short amount of time I did. So you might unlock like some talent in you that you didn't realize you had, and that's what's amazing about drag. So I did that kind of stuff. That was awesome, and then I just kept practicing and practicing and practicing till I got to where I am, which is not at a good level still. There's still things that I've only worn foundation once. That is a true fact. And I didn't have, like, I didn't have the things that I needed, let's say, because you don't have to wear a corset, you don't have to wear heels, you don't have to do any of this stuff. But I want the illusion I was trying to give off, or the character I was trying to get off, I didn't have the necessary tools, let's say, in my possession until, like, now. Which is important because, as I was saying, you need your identity, needs to be seen as your identity, in a way. I would say, my advice, though, for getting to there would be to just look around at other drag queens, see what inspires you, look at Pinterest, see who you think, who you see yourself as, in a way. Don't copy anyone, though you can be inspired by. And obviously, there are lots of things in art that are copied from other things, which is totally fine, because at the end of the day, the ideas of things are all go back to the first original drag, and everything else just spinged off of it. So, not everything is original anyway. So it's totally fine to just, like, see something, get inspired. Because I did the same thing. I saw Charity Case, drag artist. I saw, who else? I wanted to name myself Gia Valentine for an ode to Cherry Valentine, who also I was inspired by, originally. That's another person I saw. And that also brings to the point of originality. Don't choose someone else's name that you don't really have connection to. Obviously, an ode to somebody is quite a sweet thing to do, but if you don't know them, and it's their name at the end of the day, and you kind of want to have your own one. So, Dragatha Stone for me came from when I was drunk. I don't drink anymore, and not that it matters. Everyone's entitled to their own choices, but I don't drink anymore, but when I got drunk a lot, I'd go very camp, and people jokingly call me Dragatha, because I would basically just act like a drag queen, but I was, like, how you would assume one to act, a drag race sort of way, stereotypical sort of way, I guess, how you'd, like, expect them to act, yeah, and that'd be called Dragatha. I think I named it myself, I think someone else did, I can't remember, but that's just the name that really stuck for me. And on to names, because this is a good segue, actually. On to names. I think that choosing a drag name, and obviously don't base it on other people unless you have their connection, choosing a name, it's not as hard as it seems, in a way. All you sort of have to do is think, what character am I trying to portray, or like what is like my favourite things, or like what is this name? Because this is the advice other people have given me. What name? Because names are quite important. It's Dragatha, very like regal house, like maiden of the house. What is it? A matron of the house. Not like a drag house, like a haunted house. Old lady sort of thing. If I wanted to call myself like I don't know, Red to Filth, that gives me like comedy vibes, right? Like reading people and like that kind of stuff, and like Ben de la Creme, that gives me kind of comedy vibes. Food related things usually give me comedy vibes. Flying drag completely blind like I did is just working out what works best for you. So I went into Boots, I went into charity shops my year at my uni, and I picked out things I liked the look of. I liked the colours of certain makeups, the dresses, the way they fit, the length of them, and I sort of created a little bit of a collection of things, and I didn't have much of an idea of the makeup style I wanted or anything like that, but I sort of knew I had to practice, and I just had a feeling that I will go and experiment, because experimentation is important. I've gone through so many makeup styles and so many different things, and I'm sure there's a lot of people trying drag for the first time who have worn makeup a lot longer than I have, and have worn dresses a lot longer than I have. and they know more than me, and they can just amplify their own style, or they've already have one. They've already had a entire makeup style already, and that's great. But if you're more like me, who had no idea how to do any of that stuff, it just works practicing and finding the size of clothing because male born, male bodied, masculine bodied. I obviously need a lot bigger sized female clothing. Being 5'10" and not so skinny. So it's just good to be aware of what sizes you need and what you need in that aspect. And that's pretty much it. You just go with what style you like. Same as buying clothes and any other thing like you usually would, just a little more broad. I'd say a little nice things you can perform into. Like, if depending on what you want to do. If you're a singer, long flowy dresses, that's okay. But if you want to dance around, do some splits, do something that you can feasibly dance in is important, you know. We're now going to go to the first ever question of the week, which I have asked on Instagram. Follow my Instagram at Dragatha Stone, if you feel so obliged. But the question is from Kinky Wink, who's a really good drag queen friend of mine, and I recommend you follow them. They're very cool. They're very popular already, I think. They're really good at makeup. They're sensational. I grew up popular following on TikTok about a few years ago, I think. Now they've gone into drag, and it's amazing. They've asked, do you struggle with people assuming your pronouns when you're in drag? Now, what's complicated for me is that I'm a non-binary person who presents masculine, and is AMAB and doesn't feel necessarily any sort of way. So I assume that I'm always going to be assumed to be male outside of life. Whereas, I don't mind the way I am presented in that way. It's okay. I know how I feel. But the pronouns when I'm in drag, I suppose for me it's more I want to be considered the gender my character is. And I feel like I am that. I don't struggle as much because I guess I am what's considered the norm in drag, the most stereotyped AMAB to AFAB drag queen. So I guess people resonate, but obviously I know Kinky, you are trans man, AFAB queen. So your biology is different to mine. So I guess people will also misgender you, and it's unfortunate as well. And it's hard, I guess, for people to grasp that people will, even though trans men and men who don't want to be considered she her at all could present she her in drag. It's complicated to consider that, but people do need to be aware of people's pronouns, so even if they are performing, and it's important to accept and be accepting of people generally. And yeah, so that is all I have time for today, and I'm so glad that you got to hear this. So you guys have a lovely time, and peace out. I don't know how to end this, so I don't know. What should I say? Should I say something like au revoir? Never spoken French in my life. Should I say adios? Butchering languages here. What do I do? Who knows? Why don't I just keep talking and let this fade out into nothingness? And then, people that are still here, it's their fault for listening that long. It's not like they weren't your bloody attention spans. There we go.